The training ground on planet Zelar buzzed with noise. Alien cadets marched in perfect lines. Their armor gleamed under the twin suns. Each cadet carried a huge heavy backpack filled with weapons, tools, and food supplies. Today was the first day of joint military training with Earth. Aliens didn't think much of humans. They called them soft, weak, unfit for battle. Then came Cadet Mason. He walked alone behind the other Earth recruits. No armor, no giant weapon pack, just a simple black backpack. It looked almost like a school bag. Small, soft, and lightweight. The moment the alien instructor saw him, he laughed. That tiny thing? Instructor Vorek's voice boomed. What do you plan to fight with, human? Snacks and pencils? The alien cadets burst into laughter. Some pointed at Mason. One of them whispered, maybe his mommy packed his lunch. But Mason didn't react. He didn't smile. He didn't get angry. He simply nodded once and took his place at the back. Vorak grinned, his sharp teeth shining. You humans are in for a long day. Today's test, survival in Sector 9. No help, no breaks. Just you, your packs, and your wits. Let's see who survives longest. Sector 9 was not a joke. Thick red mist covered everything. The terrain shifted under your feet. Creatures waited in silence, hidden, watching as the gates opened. The cadets rushed in. Mason walked calmly. Within an hour, problems began. One alien cadet slipped on unstable ground and cracked his arm. Another's heavy pack dragged him into a swamp hole. A third one tripped, trying to reach his oversized weapon. Mason kept moving, smooth, silent. He climbed rocks, slid under branches, and moved with ease. His small backpack never slowed him down. Inside the bag, no food, no heavy weapons, no bulky armor. Instead, he carried a collapsible plasma blade the size of a pen, a smart compass that adjusted to magnetic storms, water filter straw that turned mud into clean water, nano patches for instant wound healing, a mini drone for aerial view, and a 5-in-1 survival chip embedded in his glove. Hours passed. The red mist grew thicker. Screams echoed in the distance. Alien cadets fired randomly, wasting energy. Some cried for help. The instructor watched through the monitors, shaking his head. But one screen showed calm progress. Cadet Mason. He had found high ground. He used his drone to map safe paths. He marked traps with glowing dust. He made a shelter using a foldable sheet and branches. At night, while others froze, Mason stayed warm. His bag had a heat pad no bigger than a coin. By dawn, only 5 cadets remained. 4 aliens and Mason. But the aliens were injured. One had lost his weapon. Another had eaten all his rations. The third's armor was too damaged to move. Instructor Vorak frowned. How? Is that human still going? He whispered. Mason returned to the gate first. Clean, calm, silent. He placed his tiny backpack on the table in front of the instructor. This, he said, tapping the bag, isn't for show. Vorak, stunned, slowly opened it. As he pulled out each high-tech, perfectly packed item, the alien crowd fell silent. One alien whispered, that small bag has more tech than our entire gear. Vorak looked at Mason, respect slowly replacing his earlier grin. You pass with full marks. Mason nodded once. It's not about the size of the pack. It's about what you do with it. The crowd was silent. Until someone clapped. Then another. Soon, the aliens who mocked him were applauding. That Instructor Vorak? He held up the small backpack like it was a trophy. Let this be a lesson, he shouted. Never judge a warrior by the weight they carry, but by the mind that carries it. After the survival test, the alien cadets began treating Mason differently. Some avoided eye contact. Others stared at his small backpack with curiosity. A few tried to copy his walking style, but Instructor Vorak wasn't done. "Don't get too proud, human," Vorak warned. "Next test storm zone 7. No tools, no weapons, just instincts." Mason only nodded. That evening, cadets were taken to a large desert under a dark sky. The air smelled strange, like burning wires. In the distance, a deep humming sound rolled across the land. Vorak raised his hand. "This test is simple. Survive the electric storm. No shields, no running. Face it." One alien raised a hand. "Instructor, can't we use our helmets at least?" "No. Only your brain and your body," Vorak growled. "Go." The cadets spread out. The ground cracked under their boots, dry, sharp, dead. Mason knelt and pressed his hand to the soil. It vibrate. Something was coming. He looked at the sky. No clouds, just a slow spinning light forming above. It moved like a spiral, faster and faster. Then, a flash dot lightning hit the ground in front of one alien. The cadet screamed, tossed backward by the shock. Another ran for cover behind a rock. Bad idea. The rock exploded seconds later with a blue flash. Mason didn't run. He stood still. Then he reached into his pocket. Not his backpack, just a pocket. Inside, a thin silver thread, almost invisible. It was a grounding wire, the kind used in spacesuits to avoid static buildup. Mason stuck one end in the ground, wrapped the other around his wrist, and crouched. The wind hit hard. Aliens screamed. Many panicked. Some ran, triggering electric traps in the sand. Mason waited. The spinning light came lower. Sparks danced in the air. Then dash boom. A bolt of lightning hit the spot beside Mason. He didn't flinch. The wire hissed, glowing blue, and the charge went into the ground. Mason stayed still, his heart steady. Another bolt hit the hill behind him. He rolled forward, flat on the ground, breathing slowly. He was reading the storm like a map. Meanwhile, Instructor Vorak watched the monitors. "What is he doing?" a junior officer asked. "He should be running." Vorak leaned closer. "He's not running, because he knows where the storm is going." Another officer pointed. "He grounded himself. Look, that silver thread." Vorak's eyes widened. No one teaches that outside the elite Space Corps. Where did he learn it? The storm kept firing. Bright lines lit the ground. Smoke rose. 2 alien cadets lay unconscious. One had fried his own cum system, trying to send a panic alert. Mason moved again. Not far, just a little. Enough to stay safe from the next bolt. He didn't panic. He predicted. He waited. Then the wind died. The lights in the sky vanished. Silence. One by one. Scorched and exhausted cadets returned to the pickup zone. Their armor smoked. Their faces were dirty. Then came Mason. No burns, no injury, just dust on his clothes. Vorak walked up to him. "You disobeyed," he said. Mason stayed calm. "I followed the rules. No weapons, no shields. I used my training." Vorak held up the silver wire. "This? It's not a tool. It's part of my uniform. Always carry grounding in storm zones." Vorak studied him, then laughed softly. "You humans, always full of surprises." He turned to the others. This human faced the storm and bent it to his will. He didn't fight it. He understood it. No one laughed this time. The alien cadets stared at Mason with new eyes. Some came closer. One even asked, "Can you show me how to use that wire?" Mason looked at the stormy sky, now peaceful. "I'll teach you," he said. "But first, you listen." The next day, Instructor Vorak gathered the cadets in the training dome. "You've survived terrain and storm," he said. "Now comes something harder time." The dome wall slid open. A deep tunnel appeared below them. This is the hunger test, Vorak announced. You will be locked underground for 48 hours. No food, no help, no light, just silence. A murmur passed through the cadets. Some looked unsure. No food for 2 days? One alien cadet whispered, "Our species burns energy fast. We'll collapse." Vorak heard him. "Then conserve your strength. Or die." He turned to Mason. "Think your tiny bag can feed you now, human?" Mason didn't answer. He just stepped into the tunnel first. One by one, the rest followed. The heavy doors slammed shut behind them. Darkness swallowed everything. The ground was hard, cold, uneven. The walls smelled like rust and dust. There were no lamps, no timekeeping device, no water sounds, just breathing, whispers, footsteps. Then silence stopped by the 6th hour. Cadets began to move less. Some sat down, conserving energy. Others argued in low voices that an alien cadet named Greg stood up, wobbling. "This test is foolish," he growled. "I need food." "No one has food," another alien replied. Greg glared. "What about the human? He's always hiding something." Mason sat alone in the corner. His eyes were closed, but his ears were listening. Greg stomped toward him. "Open your bag," he ordered. Mason didn't move. Greg bent down. "I said, open it." Mason slowly opened one eye. "There's no food in it. Liar," Greg hissed. "I saw you survive everything. You always have tricks." "You." Suddenly, another alien cadet stepped between them. "Stop. He's not the enemy," the cadet said. Grek growled. "Why defend him?" "Because he doesn't panic," the cadet said. "He studies. He survives. Maybe we should ask, not steal." Silence fell. Mason stood up slowly and pulled out a small object from his backpack. It was a clear pouch, sealed tight. Inside, green powder. Greg's eyes lit up. "Food," Mason shook his head. "Not food. Electrolyte powder. It helps your body hold water longer. Won't stop hunger, but will slow exhaustion." The cadets stared at him. "How do you think of everything?" "I don't," Mason said. "I just prepare for the worst." He tore the pouch open and mixed it with a few drops of water. In a cap, he didn't drink it. He handed it to Greg. The alien hesitated. Then, humbled, he drank. "Thank you," he said. Mason nodded. "Save your energy. Lie flat. Slow your breathing." The next few hours were quiet. No one moved much. A few tried to copy Mason's breathing. Slow, deep, calm. Instructor Vorak watched from above. Hidden. Cameras tracked heart rates, body movement, and heat. He turned to the junior officers. "Look at this. The aliens are breaking. But the human? Still." An officer replied. "He gave away his only pouch of powder." Vorak grunted. "Yes, but now they listen to him." By the 30th hour, 2 cadets had fainted. Others curled up in corners. Some whispered prayers. Mason remained awake. Every few hours, he whispered, "Stay calm. We're close." He had no clock, but he counted his breaths, measured time with heartbeats. He was never exact, but always close. At hour 46, someone cried out, "Make it stop. I can't take this anymore." Others began to panic. The silence was breaking them. Then, Mason stood and spoke, calm, strong. "We're almost done." "Liar!" someone shouted. Double quotes. "No. Listen," Mason said, pointing upward. "The air. It changed. Slightly warmer. That means the hatch is opening soon." Everyone froze. Then, a hiss. The door above groaned open. Light spilled in. Fresh air rushed down. They had survived. One by one, the cadets climbed out, weak, dirty, pale. Vorak stood, arms crossed. Report. The cadets stood in silence. Then one said, "We followed." The human, another added. "He helped us control our bodies." Vorak walked up to Mason. "How did you know the door would open?" "I didn't," Mason said, "but I trusted the pattern." Vorak stared at him. "Your kind, your size, doesn't match your strength." Mason gave a small smile. "Strength isn't always muscle." Vorak turned to the others. "You've learned more in this darkness than in any textbook. You learn to watch, listen, trust." He looked back at Mason, and above all, never ignore the quiet one. 2 days later, the cadets were taken to a strange building made of glass and metal. It had no doors, only smooth walls and shifting mirrors. No one spoke on the ride. Everyone was tired but curious. Instructor Vorak stood at the entrance. "Welcome to the mind test," he announced. "This is not about survival. It's about solving. Strategy, logic, memory, fear. You will enter alone. You will face illusions. Only your mind can guide you out." The cadets looked nervous. Vorak pointed at Mason. "You go first, human." Mason stepped forward without a word. The wall shimmered and opened for him. Then it sealed shut behind him. Inside, everything changed. He stood in a white hallway, silent, cold. As he walked, the wall shifted. Mirrors moved, lights flashed, voices whispered. He saw reflections of himself, some young, some old. One reflection was crying. Another looked angry. One even looked dead. Mason kept walking. Suddenly, a door appeared. He opened it. Inside was a perfect copy of his childhood room from Earth. Posters, a bed, a photo of his parents. Everything was the same. But Mason didn't move. He knew this wasn't real. A voice spoke. "Stay. You've been through so much. Rest. You've earned it." The voice sounded like his mother. He blinked. "No," Mason whispered. "This is a test." The room darkened. The walls turned to glass. The photo melted. The bed vanished. Now, he was floating in space. Alone. He couldn't breathe. He reached for his backpack, but it wasn't there. Panic hit him for a moment. Then he closed his eyes. "This is not real," he told himself. "Breathe slow. It's all in your mind." He exhaled. And the stars disappeared. Now, he was in the jungle. The red mist again. Creatures around him, growling. Yellow eyes blinking. He didn't run. He sat down. And waited. After a few minutes, the jungle faded away. Now he was back in the hallway. A final door stood before him. He walked through. Outside, the cadets and instructors waited. The wall shimmered, and Mason walked out. The aliens gasped. He made it out in 15 minutes. One cadet said, "No one has ever done it under 30, said another. Instructor Vorak frowned. "What did you see?" "Many things," Mason said. "Were you afraid?" Mason thought for a moment. "Yes, but I didn't let fear lead me." The next cadet entered. One by one, they tried. Some came out shaking. One screamed. A few failed to return on time and had to be pulled out. It took all day. By sunset, Vorak stood before the group. "You were trained in strength and survival. But this test showed your truth. Some of you broke. Some grew. One of you understood." He looked at Mason. "Human, how?" Mason answered softly. "The test tried to scare me with lies. So I answered it with truth." Vorak nodded slowly. "You are unlike any I've trained." Then something unexpected happened. One alien cadet, Greg, the same one who once yelled at Mason, stood up and said, "Can you teach us how to do that? How to stay calm?" Mason looked at the group. "You don't need to be human to do it. You just need to stop fighting the illusion and start listening to yourself." Another cadet added, "You led us in the dark. You survived storms. Now you showed us how to face fear. You should be squad leader." Mason was silent. He didn't ask for this, but they were serious. Varric crossed his arms. Very well. The squad will vote tomorrow. If they choose you human, or not, you will lead. Mason nodded once. Not proud. Not afraid. Just ready. The next morning, the cadets gathered outside the training dome. The sun was high. Shadows stretched across the rocky ground. No one spoke loudly. The air felt heavy. Instructor Varric stood on a platform. Today, he said, you will vote for squad leader. This leader will guide you through the final mission. Think carefully. Each cadet received a small metal cube. The cube glowed. When touched and stored one vote, secret, silent, they dropped their cubes into a tall container, one by one. No words. No cheers. After the last vote, the container blinked. Vorak pressed a button. A beam of light shot up, and a name appeared in the air. Mason 14 VOTEs. There were only 17 cadets left. Even Varric looked surprised. You have chosen the human, he said slowly. So be it. Some cadets clapped. Others nodded. Even Greg smiled faintly. Mason stepped forward, calm as always. He didn't smile. He didn't brag. He just said, thank you. I'll do my best. Varric stared at him. You'll need more than your best today. Your final mission starts now. A door opened behind the platform. Inside, darkness again. Varric spoke with a serious tone. Inside is a rescue simulation. One of your own is trapped in a collapsed tunnel. You must get them out, fast, safe, together. He paused. There may be surprises. The cadets glanced at each other. Mason turned to them. We don't panic, he said. We plan. Stay close. Follow my lead. He stepped inside. They followed. The tunnel was narrow, dusty. The walls were broken in places. The air was thin. Then, the door slammed shut behind them. Darkness. Mason turned on his glove light. It glowed blue. Form a line. No one moves alone, he said. They move slowly. Then a voice echoed from the distance. Help. Anyone. Please. It was fake. 2. Perfect. Mason held up his hand. Stop. That voice isn't real. Listen. There's no echo. He picked up a rock and threw it toward the sound. It vanished. No bounce. No hit. An illusion. They want to split us, Mason said. Don't trust what you hear. Trust what you see. And what I say. The cadets followed. Soon, the real path shifted. The ground crumbled beneath one cadet. Help! She cried, hanging from a sharp ledge. 2 aliens rushed forward. Wait! Mason shouted. Use the climbing cable in my bag. Don't pull her by hand. He threw them a thin but strong cord from his backpack. They secured her and pulled her up safely. Breathing hard, she whispered, I thought I was gone. You're not, Mason said, because we stayed smart. Deeper inside, they reached a blocked tunnel. Heavy rocks. A tight squeeze. And one voice beyond it. This one sounded real. Help! I'm stuck. My leg. Mason pressed his hand to the wall. Warm, he muttered. Not natural. He pulled out a tiny sensor and slipped it through a cracked. It scanned. Read the screen. There's heat, but it's not a body. It's a decoy. Suddenly, bam. The wall exploded. Gas filled the tunnel. Everyone coughed. Some dropped. Mason shouted, Put on the filter masks now. From his backpack, he pulled out 3 emergency masks and passed them fast. Only 5 cadets had their own. The rest were gasping. Mason tore his own mask off and gave it to the smallest cadet. Use it, he said. But no time. I'll be okay. He grabbed a cloth, soaked it with water from his bottle, and tied it around his mouth. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Enough. Minutes passed. The gas cleared. Everyone was alive. Barely. Mason's single quotes. His voice was weak, but steady. We move now. Fast. Before the next trap. They reached the final chamber. A real cadet lay there, tied up, hurt, breathing. Mason rushed forward, but then stopped. "Don't touch," he whispered. He looked at the floor. A tripwire. He carefully cut it and stepped over, then helped the trapped cadet up. "We've got you," he said. As they walked back, injured but together, the walls slowly lit up. Instructor Vorac's voice echoed through the chamber. "You passed." The walls opened. Sunlight flooded in. All the cadets stood blinking in the light. Mason stood in front. Exhausted. Dirty, but still calm. Vorac stared at him. "You didn't just lead them," he said. "You saved them." Then he looked at the rest. "Training is over, but your journey begins now. And this human," he pointed at Mason, "just changed what we think leadership looks like." 3 days after the final mission, the training camp was quiet. The cadets rested, some healed. Others shared stories in small circles. But Mason didn't rest. He sat alone, checking each tool in his backpack. The cord, the scanner, the mini drone. Every item had been used, tested, and trusted. Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights flashed. A deep voice echoed through the speakers. "Warning. Unidentified ships entering atmosphere. All personnel report to defense zone." Cadets ran. Instructors barked orders. Mason grabbed his backpack and ran toward the platform. Instructor Vorac met him there. For once, the alien looked unsure. "This is not a drill," he said. "Attack?" Mason asked. Vorac nodded. "Pirates. Maybe worse. They're not here to talk." Above them, dark ships tore through the sky. Fast, black, silent. They dropped pods onto the ground. Each pod opened, revealing strange armored figures with glowing weapons. The base's defense cannons fired, but some enemy soldiers broke through. Vorac shouted, "Cadets, hold your ground," but some panicked. A few dropped their weapons. One cadet ran and was shot instantly. Mason moved fast. Form behind the walls. Cover each other. They followed him without hesitation. He pulled out the drone and tossed it. Into the air. It zipped up and fed live images to his wrist screen. "There's a breach in the north sector," Mason said. "They're circling." One alien cadet asked, "What do we do?" "We're not soldiers yet," Mason said. "Doesn't matter. You're here. And you're breathing. That means you fight smart." He opened a small pouch in his bag. Inside were 5 smoke pods. He handed them out. "When I say go, throw them." Then he crouched near a wall and peeked through a crack. Enemy soldiers were heading straight toward the backup fuel cell. If they destroyed it, the base's power would drop. Shields would fall. Everyone would be exposed. Change of plan. Mason said, "We split. I'll go left. Draw fire. You circle and protect the fuel core." "But you'll be alone," Greg said. Mason looked him in the eye. "I've trained for worse." Before anyone could argue, he moved. He threw a smoke pod. Gray fog covered the ground. The enemies fired blindly. Mason dashed between walls, dropping signal jammers from his bag to confuse their scanners. Meanwhile, the cadets followed his instructions, moved around, and ambushed the enemies from the side. 2 attackers went down. But then Mason's drone flashed. Red. New target detected. Heavy. Unit incoming. A giant soldier, almost 3 meters tall, with a heavy energy blaster, marched toward the fuel core. Mason didn't stop. He pulled the last item from his bag, a magnetic pulse trap, the size of a coin. He threw it onto the enemy's chest. The giant looked down. Too late. The pulse exploded in blue light. The heavy unit froze, then dropped with a crash. "Go. Secure the core." Mason yelled. Behind him, more enemies poured in. He had no more gadgets. No more tricks, only himself. But then, boom, Instructor Vorak arrived, roaring, with full armor and a plasma spear. "Mason," he shouted, "fall back. You've done enough." Mason ran. Together, they pushed through the smoke and made it to the last checkpoint. The cadets cheered as the base defenses locked back in. The enemy ships pulled away defeated. After the dust settled, the instructors gathered. Vorak looked around. Many of you froze. Some ran. But this one, he pointed at Mason. He led. He fought. And he risked everything. One alien cadet raised his hand. He didn't just lead us. He saved the whole base. Another added. He was ready before any of us even moved. Vorak nodded slowly. "I once laughed at your tiny backpack, human. I thought you carried nothing. But now I see you carry everything you need, and more." Then he said something no one expected. "If I had one soldier to follow into battle, it would be you." The cadets stood in silence. Then, one by one, they saluted Mason, not because he was human, but because he was the best of them. 1 week later, the sky was calm again. The base was repaired. The smoke was gone. But something had changed forever. Today was graduation day. The cadets stood in perfect rows on the training field. Their uniforms were clean. Their weapons were sharp. Their faces were different, older, stronger, wiser. Instructor Vorak stepped onto the stage. In the beginning, he said, "I saw a group of loud, proud cadets, and one quiet human with a school bag." The crowd chuckled. "But now I see warriors. I see leaders. I see soldiers ready to face any world, any storm, any enemy." He paused, then looked at Mason. "And I see the reason you all survived." Mason didn't smile. He just stood tall. Vorak turned to the crowd. "Step forward when your name is called." One by one, cadets walked up and received their mission badges. Their names would now be added to the Galactic Defense Force. Then, Vorak held up one final badge. It was silver, with a symbol of stars and flame. "This is the Unity Badge," he said. "It is rare, only given to those who prove that strength is more than power. It is wisdom, sacrifice, courage." He stepped down and handed it to Mason. The crowd clapped. Greg stepped forward. "Say something, Mason." Mason looked around. "I'm not good with speeches," he said, "but I'll say this." He took off his backpack and held it up. "This little bag? It's not special. What's inside could be copied, built, bought. But how you use what you have, that's what makes you different." He looked at the cadets. You all had bigger weapons, heavier armor. But when it mattered most, it wasn't size or strength that saved us. It was thinking, trusting, working together. He paused. "You don't need to be the biggest. You don't need to be the loudest. You just need to be ready and believe in what you carry." The field was silent. Then, one by one, cadets raised their fists. The human had spoken like a leader, like a soldier. Like one of them. Later that evening, Mason walked alone to the launch pad. His next assignment waited. As he climbed the ship ramp, Instructor Vorak appeared. "You're not one of my cadets anymore," Vorak said. "You're something more now." Mason turned. "What?" "A symbol," Vorak said. "You proved something I forgot long ago, that even the smallest warrior can shape the future." He extended his hand. Mason shook it firmly. "Goodbye, human," Vorak said. "See you in the stars." Mason replied. The ramp closed. The ship rose. And high above the alien planet, a tiny backpack rested beside the pilot's seat, ready for whatever came next.